We are live. Yes, here we go. Here we go. Got an absolute banging show for you tonight, guys. This is it. The main man himself, Mr. Nigel Reo-Coker. I'm absolutely buzzing for it. So before we get rocking and bring him on, introduce him, guys, I need to do a shout out to myself, to be honest, tonight. If you are enjoying the show, if you're loving the show, you drop a little screenshot, take a wee screenshot, share it on your Instagram story, tag me in it, I'll share it back, and let's grow the show together. The response over the past 8 to 10 weeks has just been outstanding. So, first of all, thanks so much for all your support, but let's keep it going. I've got another shout out to make tonight as well. It's to Mr. Keith Arnott Design for sponsoring the show, doing the logos and all the graphics for the podcast as well. Top man. I'm going to put his contact details in the show notes. So anybody looking to get hooked up with a logo or rebranding of their business and things like that, then you can hook up with Keith himself. So guys, this is it. Ready to rock and roll. Premiership star. Premiership star without a doubt, mate. My ex-teammate from when we were kids in the Wimbledon days, the man himself, Mr. Nigel Reo-Coker. How are you doing, sir?
I'm all right, lad. I'm all right. Great to hear from you again, mate. It's fantastic. See, the power of social media. If I didn't join social media, who knows how I would have communicated, but I had to join it finally. Long awaited.
Definitely. I was just thinking about that today. I mean, social media must have started back in like 2002, 2003. And then I just seen your name popping up the other day. The other week. And I was like, bang, Nigel's on the Insta. Let's do this.
Oh, mate, I tried to avoid it for so long just because it's just not my personality. It's not my character. And I mean, you know me, you've seen me in the dressing room and how we were and everything was. I was never someone that liked to be center of attention. And the whole social media thing of what I saw, it just wasn't for me. I just liked the simple life. I did what I did, which was just playing football and, you know, have an opinion and a voice. But I'm not someone that's going to drum it on you and make you take my opinion on my voice. You know, I was always a strong character, but I had to join. And then, you know, obviously, this is a different kind of interview for the people listening in and people who listen to this. Oh, we know each other. We started from the same foundation. I remember when you first came in, I was like, who is this big giant Scotsman that we've got here? Where did you get this Braveheart from? And the funny thing is, you were the epitome of a true Scotsman as well. You know, you had the character and you were proud Scottish. And I was like, who is this giant we've got? But it was great.
Cheers, mate. Thanks a lot. So what was the change, mate? Was it something to do with lockdown? You thought I need to get out there on social media or what?
Nah, it's just because of the lot of media work I've been doing. And it's people around me are just saying, look, you have to go in there. And it's part of trying to build that whole media thing now. So I did it for that. And there's other things that I'm thinking about doing as well now. So it was just time to get on it. But I'm not someone that's hardcore into it or hardcore influenced by it. And I feel that it is a way to connect with other and certain people. But if you're close to me or my friends, I'll rather talk to you on the phone or text than through social media. You know, I still think that I'm more on that personal element, that personal connection, I think means a lot more than through social media. Not that I'm hardcore against it, but I see the benefits of it.
No, definitely, mate. And here you've obviously inspired a lot of people and got a lot of fans for the clubs that have followed you over the years. They'll be wanting to connect with you as well, mate.
Yeah, I mean, you know what? I've always been approachable. That's the thing. I think I'm someone that basically I've always said, even from before social media, you had to do interviews with newspapers and stuff like that. And I've always said, look, I'm just a normal person that pursued my dreams. I'll have my good days, I'll have my bad days and stuff. And how you approach me or how you treat me is how I'm going to treat you. So if you come with me in any kind of aggression or aggressive way, then I'm going to give it back to you. But if you're genuine and nice, I have no problem having a conversation. And I'm sure there's probably a lot of people that interact with me at different places and stuff like that who could relate to that. I'm just a very simple guy. You know, I've had some interesting interactions in my career, I tell you. I think one of the most interesting was with a Millwall fan. So obviously I'm there for West Ham. So I can't remember where I was. I think I might have been out in Bromley with one of my mates. And the guy's looking at me. So I'm like, oh, God. And I can tell sometimes by the looks where it's going to go. So he's finally come up to me. He goes, are you Nigel Reo-Coker? And don't be wrong, like many times I've used it that, nah, I'm not him. You know, people say I look like him all the time. I'm like his twin. And I always use that just to get out of conversations sometimes. So the guy's going, "Is you Nigel Reo-Coker?" I've gone, "Yeah." And he's gone, "All right, well, I'm Millwall." And I'm like, "Oh, God, there we go. So what's going to happen now? Is going to be a little scrap or this or that?" And he's gone, "But I'm having you. You're all right. I'm having you." I've gone, "Oh, cool, nice to meet you." I've wiped the sweat off my forehead thinking this could turn ugly right now, but I've had some interesting encounters like that. But it's just, I think it's a lot of it with football fans. It's just being genuine to who you are. So how you carry yourself on the football pitch goes a long way outside of football where people might see you and interact with you.
No, definitely. And I think how you explained yourself there, mate, is exactly how I remember you. You know, you're good to me, I'll be good to you type thing.
Exactly. No, but it was good though. I think if you think about the dressing room and the fun that we used to have and stuff, and the thing is, we had a bag of personality and we were still so young. You know, and if you think about how young we were and the personality and the characters that we had, how strong-minded we were, and even you look at people like it was you, myself, we had Malvin, we had Dean, and even Akala Kingsley.
Yeah.
Akala now, you know, is an international music superstar, a politician, however you want to look at it. There were some big personalities in that dressing room. But you look at today's game, you're not going to get that. And I think a lot of it is down from the foundation of coming through Wimbledon and how that club was and how it kind of nurtured us individually, but collectively as a team, we were still a band of brotherhood. We were really like ride or die for each other.
Yep. I spoke to a few footballers recently, mate, and guys who are older, well, not so much older, but around about our age and a wee bit older, and they were all from the same generation as us when you had to do jobs and shit. You know, you were doing cleaning the dressing rooms and cleaning boots and things like that, and all that's gone now, mate. That definitely was part of the character building back then.
Yeah, I agree to that 1,000%. I think all of that was part of the character building, and it was basically, it was like a bit of a rite of passage, because even with us when we were coming through, it was like you get in the first team dressing room, you're not going to think the job's done, and you're not going to speak out of term, or you're not going to speak until you're spoken to. And there will be times where, if you are that strong personality and character, you will be tested, and that's going to be your rite of passage. You know, back your talk, but you back your talk by what you do on the football pitch. It's not about the things you have off the pitch and all this and all the kind of new generation things. It's more about you're going to be judged on the footballer that you are and the character that you can be in the dressing room. All of that has gone now since the whole stopping of jobs, and everything is just now so health and safety conscious. And then even the whole communication. Like recently, before I kind of, you know, stopped, I was training a QPR, trained at MK Dons with Dean Lewin and stuff, and we'd sit there and we're like super old heads, and we're looking at these younger generation, the things that they'll be talking about and doing, they're not even talking to each other. It literally, everyone's on their phone trying to get followers and stuff and everything. And some of the young lads like, "Oh, you're not popping if you haven't got like 40,000 followers, and girls ain't going to talk to you." And I'm just like, why are socializing and learning to communicate with women in a bar? Like, you know, not just through your Instagram and stuff, but it's the modern world we live in. You have to either adapt to it or get left behind.
Yep. And I think it's interesting as well, mate, because in 10 years' time, obviously, even just bringing you on and going through the ups and downs of your career, although guys will still have a part of a story to tell, but I don't want to pigeonhole everyone, but clubs do try and clone. You know, they want you to be this kind of professional, live this way, be this way, do this. Like, it's sort of like regimented now, isn't it?
It's too regimented. I don't know what you think about that, but for me, I think it's way too regimented. I think I miss the days of characters. You know, when we played, every team had a character and personality, and they were talented and stuff like that. Now, it's just so regimented. I think football's missing the characters where fans want to gravitate to someone. You know, you need personality in sport, whether it's, you know, football, basketball, MMA, whatever it is. You need personality or characters where people gravitate. It still doesn't take away from what you do on the football pitch, but you're allowed and need to be the freedom that you have. You know, I mean, you look at us when we were younger. We watched the likes of, you know, Ronaldinho, Neymar, and all those Brazilians. They're characters outside of football. Like, if they don't party, if they don't go to carnival, if they don't have the crazy stuff, you're not going to get the same person on the football pitch. That's just the reality. Yeah. And I think from that, excuse the noise. Hold on. Okay. I don't know if someone's car's broken down, but anyway. It's I think that they need that expression outside of football to give the fans the expression in football. You know, if they were so regimented like you see in the modern day game now, it won't be the same. Like, it's great to watch Man City, but they're all basically robotic in the style and the system that Pep has them playing. And there's still a lack of personality for fans to gravitate to. I like personality. You know, I liked Arnautovic when he was at West Ham. I like Troy Deeney just because he had something to say at Watford. It just makes you want to watch. But now it just becomes a bit too boring. Like you said, it'll be interesting years down the line to see how, you know, footballers are.
Yep. No, 100%. So listen, we're going to go back to where it started for you and your upbringing, right? But I've left my water bottle, so give me 2 seconds.
No problem. I'm having a sip of tequila.
We're on.
Stay hydrated, mate. I'm dehydrating.
You've got the weather for it, though, mate. Sun's scorching over there. First thing you're doing, fill it a bevy.
Did a little 5-mile run today as well, so I need to rehydrate. But
okay, mate. So, growing up, South London, yeah.
Yeah.
Where about?
It's crazy because, you know, back in again, we go back to what I always say, our generation, but it was so different then. This was when it's called like the YT. So the academy was being born, but the academy isn't to the level how it is now. So when we were young, you play for your local team. You knew some young kids who were playing for professional teams, and you know that was the dream, to leave your local area and then go and play for a professional team. I remember I was playing for my county, like Croydon Schools, or even Surrey. I was playing for, and there was a scout there, and I initially got scouted to go to Fulham.
Yeah.
So I saw the guy again, spoke to the scout, said, "Look, wait for my phone call. I'm going to call you later, and you know, to tell you where to come to training and want to start, you know, trials for Fulham." Get home, I get a phone call from Wimbledon, and apparently there was a Wimbledon scout there, but I never spoke to him. So I'm like, "Oh my god!" Like Wimbledon, I was so excited. So I went to Wimbledon, started training with Wimbledon, and basically the rest is history. So then I joined Wimbledon. Back then it was called the academy, but not to the level it is now. And you know, started playing at under 13s, 14s, and as a young lad then it was still a big thing. You know, football wasn't seen, and I'm sure you know, we got discussed in the dressing room, coming from our culture of like Black African heritage. Your mum and dad would be like, "You better go to school and be a doctor, or a lawyer, or an accountant, or you're a failure to the family." So it was very driven.
I always remember you had a fear of like your parents or your mum, I think it was.
Ah, yeah, my mum. Yeah, because my mum could still whoop that ass, bro. Trust me. Like, you know, you had that there, so you had to do well academically. So it was getting the balance of doing academically well while still being part of a team. And back then, football never had the fan base it did now, and we didn't ever realize it would be like this. That was when fans and families started just to go back into stadiums when we started to come through. You know, it wasn't still guaranteed every stadium was selling out 60, 70,000 or anything like that. So, you know, joined Wimbledon, met you guys, was with you guys. It was, I think for me personally, like I always say to people, I would never, ever change coming through Wimbledon. I think for me, that club, to describe it, I definitely would say it's like the people's club, because of the different ethnicities that was introduced to me, the different religions, people from all over London, you know, people from all over the world we had at such a young age. And I think that type of camaraderie, brotherhood, and even the coaching and everything was priceless.
I can still hear Carlton shouting, "Nigel, flip it!"
Oh no! What about my first day? Well, I think my first day as a YT. And I ran in there and I was messing around in the dressing room. And obviously, you know, stories about things that used to go on in our dressing rooms, which if it happens in today's football, we'll probably be in a lot of trouble. So I ran around the corner, messing around with the seniors, and I ended up squirting the under-19s manager, Ernie Tippett, in the face.
I remember.
He was like that. And he looked at me and I just froze. I froze like a child that's about to get an arse whooping. Because you want to fuck about, get outside now. And I was like, oh, God, help me. And then all the senior lads were laughing at me and everything like that. But all them type of things, that was just fantastic, man. That was the days before, I think it was before camera phones and everything was like prominent in socializing.
And I hear some great times in them dressing rooms, mate. And here, like Wimbledon, although they were a Premiership club when we were there, the facilities and stuff like that were just like we were out on the park.
It was a public park. We had to walking the dogs and taking a crap on our first team training pitch and a 19 training pitch. It was literally a public park just off the A3. And nothing changed in my career, right? So we used to do the A3 run. How many miles was the A3 run? Is what? Was it a mile run or?
No, was that a 5K maybe?
5K. And then it was always last. And then I always used to have the worst timing. Like goalkeepers used to just about beat me. I used to come in the goalkeepers. Nothing changed in my entire career. Every club I was at, every club I've been at, I've always been at the back of the line. And then players always make fun of me. I always say, get the ball out, get in the game, and then let's look at the end of the game and see who covers the most distance in the game. That's fine. But if you told me just to run from here to there, I was just like, nah, I blanked out. But I just think that it's just a shame of how Wimbledon ended with, you know, we made it to the first team. We was in a bit of a financial dire situation, you know, and then the whole move of MK Dons happened, and, you know, some players were for it, some players weren't for it. And it's just a shame that club never stayed how it was. And, you know, some big time investor came to buy it during that period, because I think it really was a fantastic club. And you know what it's like when you're playing in front of, like you said, our changing rooms were just off a public park. We had to do 3 runs. It wasn't very scientific. It was very humble beginnings where we weren't playing on, you know, perfectly cut pitches. There was bubbles everywhere, made you work even that bit harder. So we were starting from the bottom, respectably, compared to people who were playing against who are Tottenham, Arsenal, and all that. And I just think it gave us that extra hunger and desire to be, you know, professionals and to make it.
Yep. Well, I remember early on from when I first came down. I mean, when I was training full time, you guys were still at school, and then we only used to play together on the weekend. And right away, you were able to see like you were playing above, but you were like excelling, mate. And I think that for someone so young, being 15, just about to turn 16, to hear that sort of leadership qualities, that like driving a team on, speaking and organising, and like you were able to see at such an early age that you had that, mate.
Yeah, it was weird because it came from like even being in school. Because even in school, when we had school projects and stuff, I'll be elected as leader and stuff like that. So it's something that I had to embrace, to say that people look at me as a natural leader. So once you embrace that, then it's kind of, you say to yourself, how do I become? Hold on, bit of noise going on here.
All right.
It's kind of, how do I embrace becoming a better leader? So it's great you get in that position, but then you also have to be the best leader you can. So then you start looking at other people, how great leaders are formed, and you start learning. And not being a leader isn't just about being cool with who you're cool with. You know, you still have to communicate with people you might not communicate as much with, and find out what's going in their head and how they think and what goes on. And it was nurtured a lot through Wimbledon. And I think what I would say is what we got at Wimbledon was definitely priceless, because you would think to yourself, remember, we were still chasing the dream. So from when you leave Wimbledon, you know, you progress in your career, you think every club you go to, you're going to be coached and continue to be taught football and become better. But it's a sad reality that not every club you go to, you're going to be coached. You know, as football fans, you think that's how it works. You hear these managers with these great reputations and stuff like that. And then you get to the club and you're like twiddling your thumbs like, I came here to learn. I want to continue to learn. But you don't get it like that. It's kind of like, oh, some managers have the attitude of, oh, once you've played over 100 and so professional games, then you should know what to do. Where it doesn't work like that, where football became a lot more tactical and a lot more coaching behind it. And then some managers kind of got left in the waistline, and you can see the ones who pay that extra attention. I'm not saying you have to be a NASA scientist, but you have to put a bit of effort and emphasis behind certain things.
Yep. Do you think that the 3 points on the table became like more important than like trying to progress players? Just like go do your job, get the 3 points.
Yeah, I think so. Definitely. I think a lot of, you know, when you progress to different higher level, the game started to change a lot more where it became, I would say it became a business. That's the best way to describe it. For us, it was football. You know, it was more about winning and just being successful for your club, having that pride. Then it slightly changed to become a lot more business orientated, where it was about getting certain places and about the financial aspect and bringing through and this and that. So the business aspect really took over a lot more in British football, which I see a lot more being in America on the business mindset for the American sports. So I see the business aspect side crept into football, and that's what truly changed football.
Yep. So that Wimbledon team, mate, because there was some shit-hot players in that youth team.
It was a conveyor belt. You look at, you know, so many players came through and so many players had opportunities. And it was like I said, if it just stayed as a club and an investor came at that time, you know, if it happened now again with Wimbledon being the Premier League, they'll get bought in a heartbeat by some big financial backing. And give me a second. It's Piper. Close the door, please. Go see mummy. See, this is what I'm doing. See?
Okay, mate, I get that as well.
Don't come out again. Yes, close the door. Okay, go watch Disney. See, close the door. No, okay, thank you. See, this is what I deal with. Anyway,
the joys, mate. The joys.
The real life, the real world. Yeah, no, it's if this happened now in today's world with Wimbledon being in where it was, someone would snap it up in a heartbeat. And I think that their model was obviously always to produce players and sell them on, and that kind of sustainability. And at the same time, they still wanted to compete. And I think that model was a perfect model, really. And it would have been a conveyor belt of players. There was so much talent there, and it was just a conveyor belt. Yep.
I've had a few boys messages. Smurf's been messaging us, and Big Cookie's been messaging us, saying, give them a shout out tonight.
Cookie!
Cookie boy!
The Bolton Massive, eh? Cookie lad.
Yeah, we had some nights out on the old works in Kingston, mate. Eh?
Kingston works. Hey, listen, there were some great night outs. I had some great stories about that, but if I told it, I'd probably get in big trouble. But one or two of them was getting in the VIP lounge when I was young and immature. I didn't know what I was doing, drinking little bottles of red wine like that, thinking, I'm not drunk yet. Yeah, I did about 6 of them. Worst night I've ever had in my life. Never doing that again. These bottles are 5% alcohol, and I'm just thinking, I'm gonna get and when it hits you like a brick wall.
So going to West Ham, mate, was it like very quickly you were able to see the difference from like it still sort of being you coming through, enjoying it? Was it sort of like bang, black and white, the switch?
Yeah, it was definitely a different switch. It was a different switch in many ways, because obviously we gone from playing in front of 5,000-6,000 fans to now you're playing in front of 35,000 fans. And Wimbledon did have a history, but it didn't have obviously a bigger history as West Ham did. So it was a big club, and it wasn't that you were seeing. I didn't feel like I was seeing so much as a young player then, because of the games I already played at Wimbledon, and obviously being a captain so young, it was basically I was seen as, all right, you're a professional now. You know, and at the time, the club has expectations. They're in the Championship. They were in a bad run of form. And for them, it's all about getting promoted. You know, and then when you get there, everyone was just talking about how good the team was before they got relegated. They had such a great team. And then, you know, it was always that competition. I think it was a bit of sour grapes at the time, because they felt that with the squad that they had, they shouldn't have been relegated. So there was you go from basically being at Wimbledon with no expectations, really, to a big club with high expectations, Premier League football, mad passionate fan base, a fan base that's not afraid to tell you to your face that you are shite. They will come and tell you to your face if they felt that way, if they saw you. So it literally was a big switch, and you kind of realize quickly. But the one thing I will say, which was very fortunate for me at the time at West Ham, was the dressing room. The dressing room at the time was very similar to Wimbledon. And we ended up having a young dressing room, and a lot of us had great camaraderie again. And just like in Wimbledon, we'd all spend every weekend in the works partying and clubbing as a team. It was very similar in West Ham, where we'd all be at Faces on a Sunday, or Tuesday would be in London. So we did a lot of team bonding, which the reality of it was the benefit to our success. I think that team bonding, being out every weekend in that period of time of football, was very beneficial. But again, it was a dressing room full of just so many different characters and personalities. You know, you had Anton Ferdinand, Marlon Harewood, Bobby Zamora, Danny Gabidon, James Collins, Teddy Sheringham, Yossi Benayoun, Hayden Mullins. Then you had the likes of Carlos Tevez and Mascherano come in. It literally was a dressing room. Sean Newton was there as well. And it was just a dressing room where you'd sit around and you would think at times, how the hell were we so successful at that period at West Ham? Because it was so many different personalities. But it was just the reality. It was definitely the realization of you're at a club now with expectations.
Yep. Just jumping back, because I actually remember your debut for Wimbledon, mate. We were all there that day. Do you remember?
Oh yeah, after the last day of the season.
We were on in the stand, and you coming on, bang! You were bossing people about straight away. You were pointing, and I was like, "Yeah,
shouting, do that." And was it Barnsley? I think it was. It was Barnsley, or the last game of the season. I think it was Barnsley. But I was just it's just so pumped in adrenaline. Like I can't even remember it, because after you get off the pitch, the adrenaline is just pumping, because it's just a dream.
When did you find out that you were going to be getting on or in the squad?
I honestly can't even remember. It's sad to say, but I actually can't remember. I think it was maybe a day before that I was in the squad, but I had no expectations to get on. And then literally it was just maybe 10, 15 minutes before is when they said, right, you're coming on. And it was just like your eyes just light up. And it was just like you're thinking, don't make a mistake, don't make a mistake, don't make a mistake. So it was a mental battle in your head where it was still pumping. And I think I was more scared and nervous my first year as a pro, starting games, than I was making my debut. Because consistently every weekend, your heart will be racing, because it's still so new to you. And it probably took me about, I'll probably say, half a season to get comfortable and realize that, okay, you're there now. Yeah. Now you can control your emotions, because for the 6 months, it still was a dream. And that was just my personal journey. For the first 6 months of starting every game, it still was a dream to me of, I just played every game on pure adrenaline. And it's like, when sometimes you watch the games and then you're commenting on some of the young players now playing, and you say, oh, he's fearless, he's this, he's that. I'm sure it's the same adrenaline rush that I had playing for 6 months, that eventually it takes time for them to settle in, to realize, okay, now we're here.
Yep. Well, you were made skipper quite early as well, Nigel.
Yeah, it was just one of them ones where I'm not the same person if I'm on a pitch quiet. And that was something later on that I learned from a great Scotsman as well, called Peter Grant, wee man, Celtic legend. So I remember my time at West Ham, he used to say to me, listen, if you're not bossing people about and you're not using your voice and being vocal, then you're not being true to who you are. And that was a talk we used to have off the pitch, because he used to play centre midfield and we always had a very close relationship. And I still to this day have a great relationship with Peter Grant. We talk to him now and then. And he always used to tell me, and that's something that stuck in my head, where you have to be true to yourself. You know, there's different ways and forms, but you still have to be a leader, and that's who you are. And if you're not being a leader, then you're just lying to yourself. You're living this fake narrative. So being that lead and being that person who I was is always something that's always stuck with me. And a lot of the time, you know, you guys used to make fun of me anyway. In our younger days when we used to play games, I was used to speak to the coach after and say, Carlton, what can I do to improve? What can I do to be better?
Mate.
And you guys used to find out and used to rip me a new one. Someone's driving a Mustang. You guys used to rip me a new one, saying, "Oh, you're busy, you're busy, you're busy." And I said, "Listen, I'm just trying to be the best I can be." And that's what I used to do. I used to speak to the coaches.
I just told my nephew's at Celtic just now, and he's got the world at his feet. He's a striker, bangs goals for fun. He's injured just now, and we were just talking about staying behind after training or looking to see how, where, and when you could improve. And I told him about like when we were younger, and again, people got called busy for staying behind. People got called busy for looking, and that's no great environment to be in. You got to fuck off like what you done, mate, and it just shows. Look what you went on to do, and look what everyone else done. And you got to be busy.
Yeah, I know, but it was. I mean, with Wimbledon days, it was just fun. It was fun, kind of. It's not serious, do you know what I mean? It wasn't real bullying or anything like that. But for me, it was just from my own personal self, because I wanted in my mind mentally, and I was already kind of hard-headed anyway. So being called busy didn't really bother me. But it was just the fact of trying to be the best I can be. And what I always wanted to do was, like, when you used to play, like, if you had the ball at centre-back, and I had to know, and I wanted to know, when you got the ball in certain areas, what your next three options to pass the ball are. So it kind of gave me the advantage, right, to know that, okay, Dino's got the ball there. He's already looking long, and I know where he's going to put it. If he puts it in the channel, I'm on my bike already, where I can have a chance of getting the second balls or the knockdowns. So that was what was all the process of speaking to the coaches and stuff like that. And I think for the younger generation, like your nephew and stuff, it's better you tell him, listen, it's about learning the whole game. It's not just what you do in your position. Yes, you do your bits, your extra and stuff like that. But if you also learn where other people are supposed to get the ball and what their options are when they get the ball in certain positions, it gives you an advantage to think 4 or 5 steps ahead, where you can get yourself even more easy goals because you're already thinking ahead of the game and reading ahead. That's all part of self-development in football.
Yeah, I love it, mate. I love it. That's great. Are you pouring another drink?
I was thinking about it, but you know.
I've seen you looking at it there.
You know, sometimes it's funny though, because you've seen some of the stuff I've got on Instagram now, innit? And people like, I'll get a little bit of stick from a couple of ball bags, I'll call them. Gabby Abongo in particular. So he gives me stick, oh, you can't be doing that. You're supposed to be a role model, this and that. So listen, footballers are not role models. Footballers need to realize and get back to the foundation that most of us came from the same place. We had the same dream. We're human beings. Don't give us this role model mantelpiece, because we're going to make mistakes. We're still learning about life. You know, I think that kids should learn from role models, someone close to them, someone in their family that have had actual real life experiences and been through things in the real world. That's more valuable to footballers than you. And Stevens asked, like, you know, I'm not going to name names, but for me, it was the dream coming through Wimbledon. And then obviously you make the move, and then you meet certain footballers that you've admired, used to run around as a kid, call their name. And when you spend time with some of these footballers, you look at them, you kind of realize, you know what, this guy's a bit of an asshole. Like, all this stuff that's put out there, and I'm sure you've probably come across quite a few as well, they're so up their own asses that they're not really the person that they're portrayed to be by the media. When you get to meet them, you think, yeah, thanks, but no thanks.
Yep. No, definitely. Even a coach, you know, a coach who's been there and done it and stuff like that, who are probably good for moulding character in youngsters as well. Is there anybody like that for you, Nige?
I think for me, I'll go to everyone at Wimbledon. You know, from Carlton, Terry Burton, Ernie Tippett, all of that, because I'll probably say my biggest learning about the game, like the foundation of the game, never changes. And that's what we got at Wimbledon. Yep. All of them there at Wimbledon were actual, real, proper coaches, because they actually coached. They took the time. West Ham, Pardew was good with Peter Grant. I think Peter Grant is a great coach. And what I've kind of learned now as I got older is there is a big difference between being a coach and a manager. I think to be a successful manager, you do need the balance of great coaches there with you.
Yep.
Because some coaches are just better to be coaches than managers. Because when you make that management step, it's a different kind of dynamic that you're in, where it's more about that personal touch, man management. But my greatest foundation came from being at Wimbledon, because the foundation I learned at Wimbledon still to this day took me all the way through my career, about just understanding the midfield role, centre midfield, what makes the world's best centre midfielders still hasn't changed to this day. We grew up in a generation of playing box to box, where you had to be able to do it all.
Yep.
Nowadays, they've made it easier for them.
You've got a 6, you've got an 8, you've got a 10, you've got fucking everything, man.
Exactly. Now it's just become so technical where you definitely have to just sit. No, what about being an all-round player? See, that generation is gone. And I'll tell you who was good as well in my career that I enjoyed was Gerard Houllier. Gerard Houllier was a total football. And the coaching sessions that he put were fantastic. You know, you really did learn about the game and how it was to play the game. And I think he spent a bit of time at Barcelona before he came to Aston Villa. And his style of coaching was engaging for me. And it definitely was good. But coaches can play a big part in players and stuff. And, you know, one player that I played with who told me as well, you might get upset for me too, but I don't care. Luke Moore. Luke Moore told me that when he had Brendan Rodgers at Swansea, he was so impressed by him that because of him, he actually thought about a career in coaching and management, because that's how good Brendan Rodgers was to him as a coach, as a manager, as a person. So coaches and managers that you do come across in your career can play a big part later stages in your career.
Yep. Luke Moore was the centre forward who played in the FA Youth Cup that brought us out, mate, wasn't
he? Him and his brother messed us up. Him and his brother. And they had, and it's crazy. We lost to them, and I'm sitting in the dressing room with them where it was Luke Moore, Ridgewell, Cahill was another one. Whittingham, Peter Whittingham.
Who was that?
Ridgewell, Liam Ridgewell. They're all the guys we lost to in the FA Youth Cup, Aston Villa.
Yeah, who did you say after Ridgewell?
Whittingham. Wits.
Oh, did he play in that team as well, yeah?
Yes, Wits was there. Wits was there, I think. Who else was there in that team? Oh, and Cookie. Remember, I forgot his name. They called him Cookie, was his nickname. But he played for Villa a few games. He was Leon. Was it Leon Britton as well? Or no? Was it no? There's someone else. People are going to be killing me for this one anyway. But anyway, they played, and then you sit in the dressing room.
We need to tell the story anyway. So 2-1, we got beat 2-1 after extra time, didn't we?
Yeah.
Villa Park, and they went on and hammered Everton with Rooney in the side in the final.
Yes, it's crazy, isn't it? This thing. Oh, mate. It's always crazy that when you look back and you think about all these players and stuff and all the different teams, and that was probably a good and best generation to make it through. You look at it nowadays, I'm speaking to my friends and stuff, and they've got kids in academies at the age of 8, 9 years old.
Yep.
8, 9 years old. Kids are traveling to Brazil, to Barcelona to play in football tournaments. I said, you what? Like 8, 9. Our best away trip was Newcastle away in the start of the season. That was an away trip for us. Now you got kids 8, 9, 10 years old traveling to play Barcelona, Real Madrid in Spain, in Portugal, and all over Europe. It's unbelievable how academies have changed. And if you think it's got any better, it's even worse, because now you've got the pushy parents. Where I'll never forget, I went to watch one of my close friends' kids play for Chelsea. And we're standing in the sideline watching it. You can make literally a reality show on parents nowadays for kids in the modern academy. It's that fright how parents talk about their kids. And then in my mind, I'm thinking, you guys have no idea how this works, how long a journey it is, and the different things that go on. We've seen it how we came from the bottom of Wimbledon to make it at different levels. And then you've seen kids who started at the top, at the likes of the Arsenals, the Chelseas and stuff, and then they dropped down the leagues, and how hard they found it because they're not used to playing with the perfect pitch. They're not used to playing with such good players around them. And it becomes now a mental challenge. But when you've already had that mental challenge from a young age, and then you get to the promised land, it's easy for you. And if you ever drop back down, you're already mentally strong enough to be able to handle it. Been there before.
Yep. Some of these kids, their families must be getting like proper weighed in, looked after.
Oh, I've heard stories of big clubs buying houses and this and that. And I'm just looking at them, I'm like, okay, he's still got a long way. He's got no guarantee he'll make it. And then it's funny now because now the big change is friends that I used to grow up with who had no interest in football. Everyone's a football agent now. And a lot of guys from the streets and stuff, like they're all football agents. That kid can play. Yeah, it's easy to go and watch a young kid play and can say that kid's got talent. What you need to realize is spot the diamond in the rough. Spot the kid that has potential and with right coach and right environment could come out of nowhere to have a long, sustainable career. Everyone can see the kid that's got talent, but it's not guaranteed that that kid's going to make it.
Yep. No, 100%, mate. I don't know what it's like down south, and obviously you're in the States now as well, but football in Scotland at like the Premier League clubs, it's became sort of, it's going middle class, mate. There's no very many working class kids because they're gonna, like, there's a lot of travel involved now. Kind of, it's actually costs money to play football. It's becoming, as you go up the ladder, it's becoming more middle class, mate.
That's crazy, man. That is absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
And that's a sad thing. Well, over in America, I'm not even going to get into that conversation. Let's just say football in America, or soccer as they call it, is for the kids in the suburbs. And just think to yourself, this is the only country that has the terminology soccer mums.
Yeah.
Because you've got mums who drive their kids in their nice big Mercedes trucks, dropping them off to soccer, and they're missing out on all the real talent. All the natural athletes are playing basketball and NFL football. And then all the coaches here are not involved to develop kids. They're just here to make money. So you got all these academies, you got wealthy suburb mums whose kids ain't got no talent to make it as a soccer player, but they'll pay hundreds of dollars to say, "Hey, go take my kid, train him." And that's it, because they want the kid out the house. And that's how scary. It's just a fact though, because most of the real American kids, the talent, are all in Europe.
Yep. Yeah.
You're never going to produce an American world class or even top world player in this environment in America, because the mentality is all different. It's all business orientated, and it's not really about the development of players. And my friend actually right now is coaching in a Western, and they've got one of the best academies and stuff. And he tells me some stories, and it's quite scary when you hear some of these stories and parents moaning and their kids not playing. And I think that's why I kind of stay out of it, because I still have that Wimbledon mentality where if your kid's not good enough, don't tell me about your kid and this and that, because you don't know nothing of what it takes to get there. So how are you going to try and dictate to me? But that's what a lot of these parents do. I think that the new terminology for them is bulldozer parents.
The what?
Bulldozer parents. They try and bulldoze away their kids.
Yep. Try and get their son on the pitch.
Yeah.
So West Ham, playoffs, first season, losing the final, and then you come back and you're in the Premiership. Talk me through it, Nigel.
Do you know what? The first season we lost, Pards tried to change the team. A lot of people were surprised that I didn't play that game. I was on the bench. We lost to Crystal Palace. And there's a funny story behind that. Joby and Mikel got promoted with Palace. Before I joined West Ham, I had a meeting with Simon Jordan. I'll never forget that Mikel told me that Simon Jordan said, "I wonder how Nigel's feeling right now," because they got promoted. So it was a hard pill to swallow. But again, I was concentrating on just playing and enjoying myself. So the next season again, we started off good. We had a middle dip. Anyone who knows the Championship in a nutshell would know the last 10 to 12 games is when that season comes along. You know, very few teams will go from start to finish at the top and go all the way through. The only team I've witnessed do that, two teams I would say cleanly, was Fulham under John Tigana and Portsmouth under Harry Redknapp. So we had a little dip. I wasn't playing for a while, had a bad spell mid-season. Pardew was under a bit of pressure. Towards the end, he brought me back in the team. And again, it was just the bond in the dressing room that we had. We went on an amazing run of, I don't know, I think maybe 10 games. We had to win 9 out of 10. and we sneaked into the 6th spot in the playoff and went all the way through to get promoted. You know, and for such a young team, it was great because of the advantage we had of the experience the year before against Palace to now having that same experience against Preston. And the best experience or best kind of atmosphere I've experienced at Upton Park would probably be the first leg playoff game against Ipswich at Upton Park. To this day, the atmosphere there was unbelievable. And they're one team where if the fans get behind you, I can't imagine a greater fan base or atmosphere that could be generated. Like, they were unbelievable that game.
Yep. I can imagine just the hairs on the back of the neck standing up, coming out on it.
You can't put in words. Like, you can have all the money in the world, but you can't buy that type of experience unless you're actually a professional yourself. You can't pay for that experience for just the real raw emotions of what it meant to the fans to get back there, because they didn't think we were going to make it, but we snapped into the playoff. And if you look at it in comparison, it's very similar to how Crystal Palace got promoted the year before, where they went on a great run just before, and then they made it to the promised land.
Yep. Quality, mate.
So
you were England skipper all around about the same time, weren't you?
Yeah. Remember when we used to make fun of that when we were young, where we'll play at Wimbledon and we would have players playing reserve and first team, but yet couldn't get into the England setup, and they'll be picking kids who are playing at Liverpool and all these teams, but they were playing like not even nowhere near the first team. So yeah, it was the same thing again with under 21s. And who's the manager then?
You never played all the way through, did you?
No, I didn't. I came late. I only got picked because they felt they're forced. They had to pick me because I was playing first team football in the Championship, and they were still picking kids who were playing Liverpool under 18s. But I was playing first team football for Wimbledon. So then I made it to the under 21s before, and then started playing, I think at the time, Jermaine Jenis, Jermaine Defoe, Jackie Elkin, all them that were coming through. And then that was when we started to come through with the likes of Ashley Young, Ridgewell, Cahill, James Milner, all of them that came through. So I was their captain. Even Michael Richards came through as well, and a few younger ones came through. So I was their captain for a while and everything, and that was a great experience as well. Played again all over the place, and then you're seeing these guys, and then they're starting to play first team football. So a lot of the players who've gone on and played and everything like that, I played with, and I was their captain at under 21s. I know I've got a little group chat with some of the Villa boys, and they were making fun of me and taking the piss out of me for not making a senior debut for England and all that. But bear in mind, I was going to make the debut, but I had a back problem, and I had to go and get an epidural because I had a bad back, and that was under Sven-Göran and Eriksson after my first year. Yeah, because I made the standby squad for the World Cup, and that was the year when Wilkins went to the World Cup, and Aaron Lennon, and then I was there as well. I think we were the 3 youngest at the time, and again that was an interesting period where you kind of. I think probably I showed him a bit too much respect, but it's kind of like still being a football fan. And I wasn't ashamed to admit I was a fan because I wasn't that type of arrogant person. So you there and you got the likes of, Lamps, Carragher and all of them lot there. And I think I probably showed him a bit too much respect, where it was like some people thought I was a bit of a fanboy. But for me, I had no shame in saying that I was a fan because, you dream of being like this, and then now you're in these guys' companies. But it's kind of a different kind of mentality that you're supposed to have.
Yep. Did you lift the first ever trophy at the new Wembley? Is that right?
Wait.
England under 21
the new
tournament.
Wembley. The new Wembley. Oh yeah, it was a mini kind of tournament. And who was it? We played Italy. It was the first game at the new Wembley. We played Italy, and I captained them. And I think David Bentley
remember you going up
a goal. Hey, that was good. That was a great experience. I'll tell you again, like it's just some funny stories of when you meet some of these people and some of these players and characters and individuals, man. Like it's different. It's so different.
Bentley, how good was he, man? We used to play against him regular.
He was a great player. He really was. He was naturally talented. He was so talented, and again with him, it was just his personality a bit. And I think some people kind of thought that he was trying too hard to be the next Bex and this and that. But he had the ability. But again, it's kind of like knowing yourself of who you are. And again, it stems from us coming through Wimbledon. We were taught that at a very young age, like to be true to who we are and know ourselves. So all of that. Close the door. See, here we go, Daddy again. Close the door. Go see your mother. So all of that was stop. Close the door. See, sorry, man.
That's all right, man.
Close the door.
My bad.
Close the door. Stop. See, sorry, lads. I'm a realist. I'm super dad when I'm not doing this. Yeah, no, I think it's kind of with our foundation is we know us, we knew ourselves. We were like taught to be truthful to who we are coming through Wimbledon. While some people, depending on the club that you come through, it's kind of this false persona that you're given and this and that, and it's more about the club than being an individual to know yourself.
Yep. No, here, and he was, well, when we played, he was a striker. He was a worldie.
Yeah. And then he became a right midfielder.
Still done decent.
I'll tell you this now, right? I'll never forget a story. I think we had to play a tournament, and then this is when Stuart Pearce took over. And then I think David Bentley said basically he ain't playing. He's not playing for the 21s because he wants to go to the seniors. And then I remember, I think Stuart Pearce came out at team meeting, said it's a disgrace, it's this, it's that. He's never going to play for England again. And I think a week later, he got called up to the senior squad. And all the boys were just sitting there looking at him. We were just laughing. We were absolutely laughing. We were pissing ourselves. Like, he gave it all this talk. And then all of a sudden, it's like, all right. And then I'll tell you another story as well, right? I've got some stories for you. So there was a manager that we had. I'm not going to name which international manager it was. And this goes back to about coaching. We were playing the game. We were losing.
Can't name them.
Oh, no, we were winning. We were winning. And I thought to myself, right, this is just all from knowledge gathered, right? We're winning. We need to change because we're starting to obviously not control the ball as much. We need to change. We're 1-0 up. Let's just change it slightly, just make sure we're a bit more secure. So we're sitting in the dressing room. We're all waiting. And then the manager comes in and he goes, we're waiting for a team talk. And he literally came in about 2 or 3 minutes before he went out. And he went, listen, you got that 3 lines on your chest. That's all you need. Go out there and win this game. So obviously, is one of the managers I had at international level. So I'm sitting there looking at him. I'm like, wait a minute. Does he honestly think that whole 3 lines thing is going to work right now with us, where you've got people of different nationalities and you've got people there who've got kids already? Like, we need a bit more than just that whole patriotic talk because it's not going to work with this dressing room. And we went out there and I think we ended up losing the game. And that was just a thing to me where you kind of realize, you think to yourself, oh my God, God help me. Like, it's not all that it seems, where you think sometimes these people with such great reputations that they're going to be that knowledgeable in football.
Yep. Madness, mate. Madness. Was Stuart Pearce mental?
I didn't really engage with him that much. I didn't have a lot of interaction with him, to be fair. I'll probably say my great times at that level was with Ray Wilkins, God rest his soul, and Peter Taylor, because they were still part of the old school vibe and they encouraged the team to go out and, you know, just socialize, and it was fun. You know, he would lose it, but it was fun, and that was probably our most successful period. And then things start to change and they brought in these different managers, and Nigel Pearson wasn't bad either. You know, he was a different type of character, but he wasn't bad. But you start to see the change in football. You start to see a lot of changes. You know, you start to go up in different clubs and different things.
Yep. So back to West Ham, the season, Tevez and Mascherano come in. What was it like being in the dressing room? What was actually going on? Because that was mental from the outside looking in.
Do you know what? Honestly, from us as players, we didn't have an absolute clue. We weren't paying no attention to it at all. Like, we didn't really, to be reality, we didn't give 2 shits, is the truth. So when they came in, wait, am I allowed to swear on this? I'll try and keep it out. You know I can be a sailor, but yeah, so we didn't really care. So when they came in, we didn't really realize the bigger picture outside of it. So we didn't realize about how they came in and all the kind of agent dealings, and it shouldn't have been done. And I don't think a lot of us were very knowledgeable on who they were at the time. So I got along really well with Tevez, probably better. He was kind of like a man's man. Mascherano was all right, but probably I'd say a better relationship with Tevez. And Tevez was just a unique character. Like, he just really did not care. I remember one of the first few conversations was he told me he wants to retire from football at 27. And I'm like, what? He played in a rock band. He played golf. He literally used to walk around with his hands in his pocket in training, but then he'll get the ball and do a bit, put it in the top corner. And in games, he wouldn't try an arm or leg in training, but in games he'd put it in. And that's, again, sometimes in depending on the manager that you have, some managers can accept that, some can't. So we kind of accepted it because we knew what we'd get from him in the game. And he was just he was really a unique character, where he was just, I don't think I've ever probably had a character like him again in the rest of my time in football in the dressing room, because he was that unique. But I did teach him the important words in English football that he needs to know on the pitch. So he learned those words quickly. See you next Tuesday and all that. So yeah, I taught him all those vital words.
Quality. So after he's beat Man U that day, what was the parties like, mate?
What, to stay in the Prem? Do you know what? Honestly, let's go back to the dark times. This is the part that you missed out.
Okay.
So, for the fans listening, obviously I had the dark time in football, and for the older generation, they'll probably know a lot more, where all the stuff came out in football, in West Ham anyway, that I was the ringleader of the dressing room and this and that, and I was pissed because I didn't go to Arsenal or Man U and this and that. The story in a nutshell, I'll just give it to you, that small section there.
Yep.
End of our first season, I was told by a manager, I don't want you to go nowhere. There's interest from other clubs. If it's a top 4 club, I'll let you go. If it's not, you're staying with us. In my mind, I'm like, I'm at West Ham, captain. Where else I need to go? I'm happy with that. If it's a top 4, no problem. End of season happens. 2 clubs came in, allegedly made approaches, which was Arsenal and Man U. And I wasn't told, but it's something did happen. So obviously I was disappointed, but got on with it. West Ham is one club where fans know everything that goes on in the club. So they found out, and then pre-season wasn't that great. And the start of the season, we didn't do too well. But bear in mind, I didn't have a pre-season because that was, again, coming from that whole World Cup thing where I had to have an epidural and I didn't train. So I didn't have a pre-season. I went straight in. You know, and I know how important it is for a player to have a pre-season. Like, you have to have that foundation to be able to make it throughout the season. So we weren't doing well. We weren't winning. There were other things going on in the club that fans knew exactly what was going on. And then I started getting a lot of bad press in the media. Captain and this and that. And he doesn't want to be here. He thinks he's too good. He thinks he's pissed off that he's not at Man U or this or that. Everyone turned on me. I'm telling you, I played in a game to this day where I remember where West Ham fans were singing break his leg. And I was their captain during the game. Yeah, break his leg. So that for me was one of the toughest and darkest times in my career. And to me and you, it's like I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, I'm 20, I think I was 22 or 23 at the time. And I'm like, I'm sitting in the dressing room and you've got the likes of Teddy Sheringham, who's won the treble, 38 or 39 at that time. Jimmy Walker, you had a lot of senior players in their late 30s, mid 30s. And they're listening to me, 22-year-old young black kid from South London. These guys have done it all. They're listening to me and I'm influencing them that much. And that's why West Ham's season's so bad right now. And literally, I had to eat a lot of shit for so long. Like, so many stories were coming out, so many lies and fake stories. One story that came out to this day that I've never forgotten was I got substituted one game and they claimed that I took the captain's armband off and I threw it on the floor. And it was a friend of mine who I still talk to this day called Andy Burton, who works to Sky at the time, had to run the video then to show me handing the captain's armband to Hayden Mullins. But at that time, it was newspapers. Everyone read the newspapers, and that was it. So they believed it. And it's not this day and age where you've got social media where you can actually defend yourself, put it out there. You're going to get retweets, reposts to show and defend yourself. So it became that I was the evil one in the dressing room and this and that. And I really had to eat a lot of shit. And it was one of the most darkest and depressing times of my career. And if it wasn't for the strength of my family and my close friends who literally stood by me to tell me, like, just get through it, you know, get through it, you'll be all right. And to this day, I would say what I experienced that time frame there in West Ham made me the strongest person I could be to go through the rest of my career, because I had to go through that dark time for other things that came on. And then obviously Pardew got sacked, and then we had a Christmas party, and then it came out again that, oh, we had a party to celebrate Pardew being sacked, which was a lie. But again, we didn't have social media to defend ourselves at the time as players. Curbs came in. Curbs started adding it to the pot as well straight away when, oh, the Baby Bentley Club. And I'm sure you heard about that. Oh, the Bentley. You ever heard about the Baby Bentley boys, Bentley Club? I'm sure if you Google it, it will still be in today's storyline. So because we were a young team, one of my teammates had a Bentley, and there was only one person who had a Bentley. So I felt that it was another way of saying the group of young black boys.
Yep.
So he said Baby Bentley, but there was only one person who had a Bentley to this day. So I knew he was talking about the person who it was. So for me, at that time, it's like you can't do nothing about it anyway. And that was a stigma that I didn't want. So everywhere you went, other players would make fun. Oh, you're part of the Baby Bentley Club. Never had a Bentley.
They were trying to put over that there was a kind of attitude surrounded you young guys. That was ripping through the club.
So that's the thing, and that's the great thing about us doing this. You've been in the dressing rooms, you've seen it yourself, you've heard coaches. Coaches are so quick to use attitude problem. And 9 out of 10 times, it's always addressed to young black players or, you know, players of that ethnic minority. And that was kind of something that was said where, oh, Baby Bentley Club. And we're like, no. So we had a bad run on the Curbs. So all the negative press still kept on coming. And it got to the point where I said, listen, we need to go and see him. So a group of maybe 3 or 4 of us went to see Curbs, senior players. I was still captain. And I said, listen, if you want us to win, trust us. This is what we do. So we train like this, and this is what gets the best out of us. And then he said, you know what, fine, do it. So he let us do what we wanted to do. And then from then, we went on the probably most incredible run to be one of the greatest, still to this day, Premier League escapes ever, next to when Brian Robson was in charge of West Brom, you know. And we got to do that. And it was just the fact of, we never believed we were going to get relegated that year.
Yep.
And still to this season, I think, I don't know if it's happened since, but we were one of the only teams to take 6 points off Arsenal and Man U in the same season. So we managed to achieve and do all of that. But I think for me, that period at West Ham is probably my most defining moment in my career, because to this day, I've never fully spoke about it openly. But I could write a book on it, and there's some stuff that I will tell you that people will be like, you should write a book. But what I went through there was crazy. And to this day, I think I was a bit disappointed where I felt teammates, people I looked like as a brotherhood, no one came to defend me in the press. And it's kind of when you start to see the selfish side of football where players are like, oh, well, it's not me, let him have it kind of thing. And I was the one taking all the heat as captain. So, and that was a stigma that kind of stayed with me, because even after that whole West Ham thing, you know, to go to Man United, get the win, which we never doubted that we could do. And then obviously behind closed doors also, up top, they didn't want me at West Ham no more. You know, it was a new regime and they didn't give me the opportunity to stay. So moved on, went to Aston Villa, but the whole stigma of it stayed with me at Aston Villa, of the whole thing of the press at the time of, oh, you know, attitude problem or this or that. And you know, if you don't believe in yourself, who's going to believe in you? But then when you're a young black kid and you're very confident and you believe in yourself, it's seen as, oh, you think too much of yourself. That's always been how it's been portrayed in the press.
So going back to that time, Nigel, when you're going through that, right, 22, 23, was there any players or was there anybody within the club or other clubs who were reaching out to you to support you?
Nah, no one. Honestly, no one. I think my greatest support net came from my friends that I'm still friends with this day, where it wasn't the right way, but to be fair, it was just going out, clearing my head. And at the end of the day, you're already at the lowest of lows, depression, borderline depression, because there's no rule book. No one teaches you. You didn't expect that. You come to such a big club and it was just constant negativity to this day. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love West Ham to bits, love my time there. Like I said, it defines me. But you do get a large amount of the uneducated, dumb West Ham fans who don't have a clue what goes on behind closed doors. And I know it's the ignorance of them and how they grew up to be like, oh, he's not West Ham, you don't want to be here. But they didn't understand the business aspect of the game and the fact of what we go through. And then it's to this day, it's how can you look at a 22-year-old to say he has that much power and influence in the dressing room over Teddy Sheringham, who's won the treble at Man United, and all these other guys, And then some people might have their own different stories where they might say, oh, you need to come in and smile. But it's only nowadays that we've seen the reality of life and socially what we go through. So when I'll come in, and then you'd have some senior players, for instance, like Jimmy Walker, say, oh, what's wrong, lad? Why ain't you smiling? I'm not smiling because I'm going through a lot more different social issues than you'd ever have to go through. Just because I'm a footballer doesn't make me privileged to not go through a lot more social dynamic differences that you don't have to see. And all of it now, looking back, adds up and makes sense. But to them, they're like, oh, you should be grateful. And I'd always say, I'll be very honest with you. Like I said, I'm not stupid or naive. I know a lot of coaches and stuff I've come across would make the comments of, oh, you need to smile. You should be great. You should be happy that you're a footballer. And I know their mindset is, they're thinking you should be grateful you're a footballer, because if you're not a footballer, you're either going to be in prison or selling drugs. That's what they really want to say, but they can't say it. But that's what I know they're trying to say.
Yeah. I mean, mate, I think we as a culture or as like the mainstream media, they get away with terrorizing young kids, 22, could be younger, just because they're a footballer or just because they're in the public eye or they're meant, do you know what I mean? But really, man, it's like, whether you're pulling on a fucking strip or you're pulling on overalls to do whatever you got to do, everybody's got to look after their own fucking mental health. And if you've got coming from all angles, fucking trying to rip you to shreds, and even if it was true, or even if it wasn't true, then why heap so much pressure on a young man like that? It's fucking insane, mate.
It's just the British culture and British society as a whole. Because I mean, recently I've done some stuff, and then they're talking about obviously what Marcus Rashford did, and I said it's fantastic. And then they're trying to say a role model. I said no, don't give him that tag of a role model. Just say he's a leader, because you're trying to put him on a pedestal right now. He's still young. He's going to make mistakes in life and stuff like that. And just because of this good thing he's doing, fantastic thing he's doing, so to speak, the media and the press can't wait to just probably chop him down and take that away from him for the one mistake he makes. So I always say to these young kids coming through, no matter what you are, don't put yourself in that thing to say you're a role model, because you're not. Because if you look at the word itself, role model, you're playing a role. And you're modeling something, you're playing that role. Be true to yourself. If you want to be a leader, be a leader. But just also let people know you're going to make mistakes later on in your life, and don't hold it against you. And these are the type of pressures where, you don't really realize it. And like I said, that West Ham period there was so defined, because all the articles, everything, I'm playing in games and West Ham fans are screaming, break his leg, break his leg. There wasn't really any support for me. There wasn't any support. And I'm not going to even say the name. I'll give you another story that's going to make people laugh, right? Let's swap roles.
It's all coming out tonight.
Hey, yeah, trust me, you're going to get some retweet. Let's swap roles, right? So you're kind of like an interracial relationship, right?
Yep.
You're missing. So say you're black now, right? And I'm white. What would you do back in our generation, them days, right? You get called into a manager's office. Now, I'm not saying what club, what team, whatever it is. Some people know in the football world when this was. And the manager says to you, you're the leader of the black pack. Yeah, look at your face. How would you react to that? When a manager says to you at such a young age, you're the leader of the black pack, So when that manager said that, Georgie dropped. I'm like, hey, did he just really say that? Like, he said, I'm the leader of the Black Pack. I've never forgotten that to this day. That was said to my career. So for football fans, it doesn't matter. I don't care what race you are or anything like that, because I've got friends from all over the world of different races and religion. That's what makes my life fruitful.
Yep.
Where do you turn to? Who do you go to? Who do you go to for support? Who do you go to for advice when a manager says that? And back in our days, we didn't have the kind of support that players have got now. So what do you do at that young age? If you make a scream and shout about it, people would say, oh, you're weak, you're this, you're that, or and then that could ruin your footballing career, because generally all the football managers were white. It was a small circle. It was a very small. Art days, there were probably 4 or 5 big agents, and they ran the whole football industry back in them days. So you know you're not going to get another club. You worry about your career. So all that type of thing plays a part. So it's like, what do you do? What do you say when a manager says to you, you're the leader of the Black Pack?
That's incredible, mate. Actually, it's put that the comment itself just blew my mind. It's just like
that's something that I had to go through, and that's something I had to swallow. And to this day, like I said, very few people know it, but there's people at the club that I was at that I told them that was the conversation that I had. And again, it's like, what do you do? People don't realize that that's something I had to swallow and get on with, and just take it on the chin.
Yep, it's mad, mate. Do you know what? That's why I loved about Wimbledon so much, mate. Like, for how, like, as you mentioned earlier, we had Italians, Germans, Scottish, like black guys, but I mean the banter that you used to have because of like where your heritage was from in each country, Sierra Leone, Nigeria, Ghana, and it was just so like it was like I tell people stories now, and it's like obviously racism has became there's a massive thing. It's exploded just recently, but there is a banter side of it, like so the love and the banter what we had. That it's like you're not allowed to have that anymore as well, though.
No, like, you can't. You can't have that anymore. Where, I think you probably could.
You probably could within the contained, but if you spoke about it, people would be like, "Wow!" Because everything that we lived during them few years was, it was all through fucking like togetherness, unity, banter, love, fucking. It was. And it just worries. It does worry me a wee bit that gets lost.
Yeah, it worries me it gets lost. But I just think that the reality of it is we're living in a different generation now. And I think like you being a father, I'm a father as well. There's times I disagree with my missus about our kids, where sometimes I say to my missus, let them fall down, let them get hurt, and let them learn to pick themselves back up, because that's how they build their character. We can't be always there for them. We're not always going to be there for them. It's not how life works. They have to learn to survive. And I think that's part of it. And with football now, you kind of have to find the right dynamic of, it's all in the coaching side of things, where certain things have to be made okay, but it's also learning that it's okay to be from different cultures and different backgrounds. I think my biggest worry with football right now, especially in England, is the lack of understanding of the cultural differences, because the cultural differences play a part. It's all great we're talking about it now, but the reality of it is there's a big cultural difference. You know, you've said it yourself that you've heard coaches use that attitude problem, and generally 9 out of 10 times it's directed to black kids. But again, it's because 9 out of 10 times all the coaches are white. They can't relate to a young black kid when he gets stopped by the police and the things that he has to go through in his life and stuff like that. So sometimes it just takes a bit more understanding of what's going on. And what made Wimbledon unique is, even back in those days, they had loads of black coaches. They had black coaches, black players. They had coaches from all over the place, where it was so easy to go and speak to someone because the dynamic was already there. And that's what makes that club so fruitful, because you see around so many different nationalities, like races, religion and stuff. And it was fantastic.
Yep. No, 100%, mate. 100%. Where were we?
Yeah, see? You're right. You know what? You're going to have to do a part 2 of this soon, mate, because I've got 9% on my phone and I'm outside. There's going to have to be a part 2 soon if you want to do the rest of it on the Villa side of things. Because I think there's there's another great story there, and obviously I know it's another. Any of my kids there again? Sorry. 5 minutes. Okay. Go take a snack. Go get a snack.
When you finish, can I have bubbles?
Yes. Go get a snack. Go get a snack. We'll play bubbles up. See? Now you're gonna have to get another part 2 because I'm sure I know people listening in would want to know about the whole Villa scenario. And obviously, I know the biggest thing with the Villa thing was the whole Martin O'Neill incident and stuff like that. You're getting things that people have never had before.
Yeah, I listened to an interview from Philip.
You're getting things that I've never spoken freely about.
I'm loving it, mate. I'm loving it. I appreciate it.
Hold on. Sorry, mate. Hold on. We've got a big garbage truck coming by now. See, this is the real world, mate. There's garbage there. He's driving right by now. Yeah, no, yeah, I've got 8%. So yeah, so that was. I'll probably say, being honest with you, I would still to this day say that West Ham period and being at West Ham really molded me for the rest of my career. Because what I experienced there, I've always said in the back of my mind, if you can play for West Ham, you can play for anyone. Because what you go through is unbelievable. And I'm fortunate because I really truly believe that the 3 clubs, major clubs that I've been at, they have the same kind of foundation and the same kind of principles and probably fan base. I think West Ham.
I'm losing you, Nigel. I'm losing you.
Can you hear me?
It's went a bit echoey.
Sorry. I say that the 3 clubs, Wimbledon, West Ham, and Villa, they all have the same kind of foundation and principles where West Ham's from East London. And I'd always say it's the people's club as well, just because of the cultural differences of East London and then the fan base and all the West Ham fans that I've met. And they're
Let me hold you there, Nigel. Let me hold you there because you're breaking away. I think your battery's going so low that we can't hear you properly.
So we're going to have to do a part 2 then.
We're going to need to do a part 2. All right.
Definitely, mate. Do a part 2. Let's let them suck this up, and we'll have to do a part 2. What, next week?
Next week, let's do it, all right? Me and you'll sort out the day, we'll sort out the time, we'll get it hooked in. Hold on there 2 seconds, all right? Because I'm just going to sign off, but wait there, don't go anywhere. Guys, we have already done an hour and 20 minutes, which has been outstanding. I hope you've enjoyed it. I've absolutely loved it. I'm learning loads and buzzing. So once we hook off on this, me and Nigel will get a catch up and we're going to bring you part 2. So peace out. Have a good one. Remember to take a screenshot and tag me on your Instagram story. Nigel the same. Have a good one, Trips.